Today I'm going to be making an oak leaf tool. So I've done a video before on making oak leaves, but I want to do a video on making the tool which I use to actually make the leaves, and I need to make another tool anyway. So I thought I might as well film it, as a couple of people have been asking me about how I made this tool. So here you go. This is the oak leaf tool that I'm using at the moment, but as you can see it's quite big, and also it's on this big anvil. So I want to make an oak leaf tool that I can take on shows, and so I'll do that when I go to a show. I take the smaller anvil, not this big one. So I need one that fits in the hardy hole on that anvil, and also I want to make a bit of a smaller leaf tool so I can make smaller leaves, so I've got a bit of variety. I think the way that I'll make it smaller is, you see these deeper groove marks, I just won't put as many deeper ones in, I think. So it'll have 3 lobes instead of 4 lobes, or whatever, however I'll work it out. And the way that we actually make this is, it's got this peg down the bottom so that this doesn't move anywhere. So this is clamped down nicely to the anvil, and this piece has a shank going down, and all this material gets upset down. So there's no welds in it. This material is just pushed down and squashed down to create a shoulder on the shank, so that this fits just perfectly into the hardy hole. So really the peg sort of doesn't need to be there, but putting the peg there means that it is really solidly clamped down on the anvil and doesn't move anywhere. I've got that shank, or that taper, out on the end of the bar, so that piece can now fit into the hole. And what I'll do is I'll begin to upset it whilst it's still on the bar, so I can create a bit of a shoulder. So I get a measurement from the shoulder to the underside of the anvil, so I can then punch the hole in, where we can then drive the peg in to lock the piece into the anvil once it's done as a complete tool, so it doesn't bounce out all over the place. And then we can cut it off the bar and upset it down to get that nice rectangular piece where we can then cut the chisel lines in for the actual tool. I've marked out cold where I need to put this hole, so we can now punch through. And this is for the wedge that we can drive in to lock this into the anvil. I'll just drive the drift through and then forge the cheeks in. This means that the cheeks aren't going to catch on the hole, as at the moment they were wider than up here, which meant that we couldn't actually get it into the hardy hole. So if we come back and just planet the cheeks back down so they're just a little bit narrower. I've managed to sort out the rhombus on this piece a little bit. It's still offset, but it doesn't really matter. I'll begin to cut the veins in now, and these are what give the oak leaf its form and its design, as we stamp the piece onto these veins, pushing that into the steel so they come out of the steel rather than cutting chisel lines into the steel. It creates a more realistic effect. So these ones that I've marked out here, they're going to be the ones that are much deeper. And so these are each of the lobes of the oak leaf. And then we do lots of little ones in between all of those to give the background a bit more texture, rather than it being just one big vein, which again isn't really realistic. There is that background texturing as well. I put all the chisel marks on the piece, and I've also gone back and just refined the hole on the bottom. This is the wedge that I'm going to use. This is just the wedge that I have for all of these sorts of tools where we clamp it in the vise. And so this top edge here, it's actually on an angle. If you look down here on the anvil, this bit here where the hole is sort of almost a 45, and so the tool matches that. So as this is driven in, it's not driven in off square, it's coming in so it's nice and flush with the top of the anvil. So I'll just drive this in here. As you're hammering on this, the tool's then not bouncing all over the place, so it's nice. It just really clamps it down onto the anvil and prevents you jumping. So when you're hammering, you know, when you're stamping out the veins, what can happen is you hit and your bar that you're holding jumps, and then you can have like a double vein, a double stamp on it, and you can't do anything, then you have to start again. So by clamping it in down onto the anvil, you sort of prevent that from happening, as the tool doesn't jump, and so it's less likely that the bar that you're hammering on jumps. So it's much safer and just much more efficient. For this tool, the clamping peg that goes in on the bottom of the tool through that hole is very important. So that punched hole is actually slightly in the anvil, so when you drive the peg in, it really clamps the tool down, so it doesn't jump around the place, which means that you don't get a double vein, and so you can then have less of a chance of messing it up. It's much safer, because the tool isn't going to fly out, and also it's much easier, much more efficient, as you get less discarded ones which are not good enough due to a double vein. Anyway, thank you for watching the video. I'm going to do another video in a couple of days in which I use this tool to actually make an oak leaf. So if you want to watch that, I'll link it up here if it's out, and if not, just wait a couple of days and then it will come out and you can see how we actually use this tool to make an oak leaf. Anyway, thank you for watching the video. and I'll see you in a bit.